All right, y'all, welcome to the Scott Horton Show. I'm the director of the Libertarian Institute, editorial director of antiwar.com, and author of Provoked, How Washington Started the New Cold War with Russia and the Catastrophe in Ukraine. Sign up for the podcast feed at scotthorton.org or scotthortonshow.com. I've got more than 6,000 interviews in the archive for you there going back to 2003. And follow me on all the video sites and X at Scott Horton Show. All right, y'all, introducing Jason Jones. He is with the Vulnerable People Project. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Scott Horton, good to see you, brother.
Welcome. What is the Vulnerable People Project?
Well, it's a program, actually, of an organization I founded in August of 2002. I'll never forget because I got my letter from another organization that was letting me, at the time, use their tax-exempt status as kind of a pass-through, and they gave me a plaque. And I founded HERO with its two programs, Vulnerable People Project and Movie to Movement, in 2002 in anticipation of an Iraq invasion. And my hope was, as someone who was very involved in the pro-life movement and very involved in the conservative movement, to kind of harness conservative and pro-life sentiment to oppose the war. That, like so many things I've attempted in my life, was an utter failure.
I was going to say, how'd that work out?
It was amazing.
I think we know what happened.
I mean, we were right, I guess. That
you did your best.
This sorrowful solace. We wanted to be wrong. Yeah, but we learned a lot of lessons over the years that have allowed us to have successes in the wake of massive national failures. I wish we would have never had to have the opportunity to have those successes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so... well, hell, let's talk about that. So after the war, did you do aid in Iraq?
Yeah, we did. You know, my big concern was that the fragile, when you destroy the secular equilibrium in the region, which was very fragile to begin with, that the vulnerable ethnic and religious communities would be wiped from the face of the earth. And it wasn't original. Men like you thought that, and Pat Buchanan and Pope John Paul II and others also had this obviously very rational fear, but we were told that we were kooks. And so then there were times after the invasion where there were little glimpses of hope that this might work, at least to me. Maybe you saw through that. Like in Afghanistan, I had hope where you were correct. But, you know, by... on October 31st, 2010, the first IS attack took place in Baghdad at Our Lady of Deliverance Church. And I knew then that catastrophe was about to happen. And we began working with the Chaldean and Assyrian Christian communities in the United States and began advocating. And then in 2016, we produced a documentary for policymakers. I went to Iraq with the Peshmerga and traveled as they were battling ISIS and liberating Christian and Yazidi villages in Iraqi Kurdistan. And so, yeah, we were there the whole time. But, you know, we weren't just focused on Iraq. Our mission, I founded the Vulnerable People Project. I had the idea for HERO as a young infantryman. And my high school girlfriend's father forced her to have an abortion when I was in basic training. And that really was my inciting incident. That rocked my world. And then just those experiences as a young infantryman on deployment, even in peacetime, really addled me with how much suffering there was in the world. And that's where I said, I want to spend the rest of my life serving the vulnerable, advocating for the vulnerable. I had this strange idea of like a special forces A-team, but instead of teaching people strategy and tactics and weapons, they would teach them how to advocate through the media, through entertainment, through government. And I had this vision as a young infantryman. After the Army, I went to college, went to the University of Hawaii, was blessed to be there when R.J. Rummel was there.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, what a blessing. I was telling my assistant, who's in here with us, I've just lived kind of a charmed existence of being around greatness. We were talking about coming to see you.
Rummel is the author of Democide. For those not familiar, you can read it for free online.
Yeah, the book Death by Government really shaped me. And then
Death by Government. Democide
was the second book. Well, he did another book that was another book on democide. He coined the term democide. And then my faculty advisor she's still there at the university, Dr. Kate Joe, who's a great libertarian. She survived the Cultural Revolution. was forced to work at a factory as a young woman in China, monitoring women's menstrual cycles. And we're still to this day very close friends, and we're very close in college. And so that's where I was this young atheist, libertarian, anti-abortion, anti-war activist on campus. And I just said, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And there was no organization like this one, so I had to found it. And I knew it would take a long time to kind of find my tribe and build our organization. I thought like it would take 5 years, but I think finally after 20 years, to almost 25 years, we're hitting we're finding our people and growing in our ability to do what we aspire to do.
All right, so tell us about that. Your organization is on the ground in the Gaza Strip right now?
We are.
All right, so I'm sorry, first and foremost, because this is what comes first to my mind, is there any controversy about that? I mean, we know that UNRWA got kicked out of there on mostly trumped up accusations, and they brought in this GHF project, which seems to be a front for the Israelis and has scaled down their deliveries of aid to some incredible degree from 400 sites to 4 different aid sites. 3 of the 4 being right on the Egyptian border is what I was told by Anthony Aguilera when I interviewed him here. So where does your organization fit in there? Because I have to wonder, why would Netanyahu let you in there? What's the deal? You got to tell me the deal.
Yeah, what is the deal? Well, the deal is just like, first of all, what's happening, right? It's really a grift. I believe that Israel wants to make sure that all money and all the logistics companies, all the organizations, and all profit is going to stay in Israel. So that's why they don't want aid coming in through Jordan. They don't want aid coming in through Egypt. It's just a grift, along with the ethnic cleansing. It's a grifting while you're ethnically cleansing. What a deal, And how do we do what we do? That's a good question. Sometimes we don't even know. I mean, I went to Jordan. I went to Egypt.
Well, wait, just on the last point, because you weren't entirely clear, but I think I understood what you meant, was they let you in because it's a grift for them.
We don't go through Israel.
You don't go through
We
Israel.
don't.
Okay, so you're talking about the GHF thing is the grift then?
Yeah, well, and even now, like the partners that we use, the logistics partners that we use, the window's closing on them.
So then you're going through Egypt?
Jordan.
Oh, through Jordan.
We were going through Egypt, and we have relationships with a lot of...
But Jordan's not contiguous with Gaza, so don't
no,
the Israelis have to allow that?
Yeah, they have to allow it. And so that would be the logistic companies figuring that out.
You have a deal with the Jordanian regime to get the aid in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the regime.
Or tell me.
But I would say, how would I say it?
I'm sorry, I don't mean
I would say that I have a deal with the logistics company that I believe works closely with the regime in Jordan.
I see.
But it doesn't mean that they're
and the regime in Jordan
cousins.
then has gotten permission from the Israelis to at least allow this much through. So that's your avenue.
Right.
Okay,
and what we try to do, so, the whole idea behind the Vulnerable People Project from the very beginning was to try to, there are only 2, I've really been influenced by the Catholic anthropologist Renee Girard. And I think there's really only two ways to manage a family or a neighborhood or a town or a country or the world. And that's, in your family, the healthy and the strong and the productive members care for those who are not healthy, who are not strong, who cannot provide for themselves. The strong order their lives to serve the vulnerable. Or the strong live off the exploitation of the vulnerable. As a Catholic who's really been influenced by Renee Girard, I had this vision of an organization that would model what does it look like to care for people outside of the social concern. So that's why I'm really more of a conservative than a libertarian. I mean, my spirit animal is libertarian, my soul is libertarian, but I'm really a conservative, and I'm on the right, and I'm been recognized as, in this new book that came out, in the 50 greatest pro-life leaders in the history of the world, along with Mother Teresa and Pope John Paul II. There's a chapter on me.
Yeah, what rank number did you get?
They didn't rank it by number, but I'd probably be ranked last. I don't even know.
Hey, you made the cut.
I don't even know how I made the cut. I think
right.
it's just I'm startlingly handsome. Maybe I don't know, but I do think there is an obligation that I have to leverage whatever clout or recognition that I have into my community to advocate for those people outside of the concern of my community.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why the work that we do, and we've done a lot of work in Afghanistan. I'd love to talk. We're still in Afghanistan. We're still across Central Asia. We're still in Africa. actually in a much bigger way than in Afghanistan and Africa than we are in Gaza. But
really,
but it's very important to me.
Right. You did offer to bring me to Afghanistan that one time.
Yeah, I'd love to bring you. Yeah, I'd love to bring you to
I
Afghanistan.
Probably wisely said no.
No, there's a great reward. I could use that money. I got kids going into college. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Hey, I got him, everybody.
I got him. I got
All
Scott Horton. We're getting off the plane. I'm like jumping up and down. It's like a game show. They come out with a
and I'm like, it was me. I'm sorry.
Give me
I did.
a big
That book
bag
was
of
a big
money.
hit.
Oh,
I'm sorry. We're joshing around here. No, listen, I got you. I know you. I know you're a good guy. I know you got great motives. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to explain yourself to people so they understand who you are, where you come from on this. But so then the real question is then what all, and because I want to know about Central Asia and Africa too,
Yeah.
but nobody's got it worse than the Palestinians.
Yeah,
so
you're
you
right.
decided you're going to stick your neck out for them, and you got you found a way to get your aid in there. So can you tell us like
Yeah,
the
you know,
extent of it,
again,
how
like,
it works?
a lot of what we do, I didn't even want to stick my neck out for them. You know, I wrote an article early on called "Help, I'm an Anti-Palestinian Bigot," and that article was completely sincere. I wrote my sincere thoughts and feelings and sort of epiphany I had about myself. You know, on October 7th. Like everyone else, I was scandalized. I was horrified. In fact, I have friends that, by God's grace, they were Israeli peace activists that were not there that day, and I'm very grateful for that. But on October 7th, I was horrified. The first thing I did was I approved a request that I had been sitting on for months, and I didn't even have the money in our budget to secure vulnerable synagogues in African countries, where there were small Jewish communities, very vulnerable synagogues exposed to Islamist attacks. We already do that for Christian communities that are facing attacks from Boko Haram. So I said, let's just wrap up these synagogues. And we did. And we actually even gave them more security. And we're still securing them to this day and doing other things to provide for their safety. But it was by October 18th that it became very clear to me that this was just going to be another Israeli misadventure. And it was going to be an ethnic cleansing. It was going to be brutal. Within 2 weeks, it became clear. And I didn't know what involvement we would have, but we've never actually go around looking for places to serve. We're always, people request that we help. And so we received requests within weeks to evacuate wounded, pregnant women. And it was very controversial, believe it or not, amongst the advocates of the Palestinians that accused me of aiding ethnic cleansing by removing Palestinians from Gaza, something I didn't expect to be attacked for, evacuating wounded pregnant women. But while I was in Egypt, we were evacuating into Egypt at the time before the Rafah Gate was destroyed. We were evacuating wounded pregnant women, wounded children, wounded women. And as we were evacuating them, I went to Cairo. We set up a clandestine television station. If you go to our website, vulnerablepeopleproject.com, you can see our interviews with the women and the families that we evacuated. And as I was interviewing them, I was just charmed by them. And I was expecting to see hatred, anti-Semitism. I was expecting to see extremism. I still felt that civilians had dignity, and I wouldn't want to see their children turn into quote unquote pink mist, as the advocates of this genocide are calling for. But I still kind of held to a lot of this prejudice. It was startling. And that's when I came home and wrote this article, Help, I'm an Anti-Palestinian Bigot. Because as I was coming into direct contact with Palestinians, Christians and Muslims, who had been brutalized, whose homes had been destroyed. One Christian woman on our website, vulnerablepeopleproject.com, you can see, she tells the story of how not only was her family killed on that direct attack on the church, members of her family, but that IDF soldiers broke into her house, dressed up in her underwear, wrote pornographic slogans on her walls, smashed her statues of the Blessed Virgin Mary and her crucifix, wore her underwear, made videos and put it on social media. And we have that. We have the Israeli soldiers in the video as she's talking, and she's expressing forgiveness for them. She says, I hope that the actions of the state of Israel don't foment Jew hatred, that these poor young boys are just acting out because they're poorly trained reservists thrust into an ugly position. And as she's talking, I'm like, who is this woman? Because if someone did this to my family, oh no. and the compassion and the understanding and the maturity as she's living as a refugee in Egypt. And I can tell you, you don't want to be a refugee in Egypt. And she was upper middle class, elegant, beautiful woman, educated. Her husband, very handsome, very dignified, very educated. And yet they were so kind. And then I'm like, okay, that's because they're Christians. God forgive me, people don't hate me. I'm just being transparent with you. When I started interviewing the Muslims, the same sort of understanding and sentiment. So I was like searching, where's this radicalism? And I'm sure you can find it, and we know it's there. But obviously, you know, decades and decades of abuse and brutalization would make it pretty fertile ground to radicalize, people. So we began with the evacuations, and then the next step was this community starving, that community starving, this community doesn't have water, that community doesn't have water. And people say, how do you do it? I really always begin with a piece of paper. My assistant who's in the room can tell you, and I just write what the goal is. Evacuate we were asked by a very famous conservative commentator. I'll tell you who it is off the air. I mean, doesn't get much more famous than her. Her husband reached out to us and said, can you help us get this boy? His family was killed. His skull was fractured. Both his eye sockets are broken. Can you get him out of Gaza? I wrote the goal on a piece of paper. I wrote the contacts I have that can facilitate the evacuation of the boy, Israeli, American, Palestinian, Jordanian, Egyptian, and other. And I wrote all their names on a piece of paper, and then I began putting together the steps. And by God's grace, in a week, we were able to get him out of Gaza and get the boy into a hospital in Jordan. I think with everything we do, it's just it's planning and relationship building. I say that, our organization is, a lot of people like to imagine it's like Rambo. We evacuated the nuns from when the war broke out in Khartoum. We evacuated nuns from Ukraine and from Afghanistan. But I say it's not Rambo, it's Rick's Cafe. In Casablanca, it's just friends at a piano bar or at a casino getting together and saying, how do we get letters of transit to this person so they can leave the country?
So you don't run armed mercs?
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, in fact, I'll tell you, we got a request 2 years ago, and you can see the nuns that we rescued on our website. We got a request to evacuate a religious order in Khartoum in the middle of the war. I mean, it was just brutal, right? Both sides are lunatics, and the war's breaking out, and this convent stuck in the middle. And Michael Hitchborn, who's a kind of well-known Catholic influencer, reached out to me and said this friend of his supports this religious order in Khartoum, and they're stuck in the middle of a firefight. And some of these nuns are elderly with diabetes and other health problems. Can you get them out of there? And we said, well, we'll see what we can do. And so we did. We built a plan. Not only did we get the nuns out, we got 800 Christians out of Khartoum. It cost us $60,000. A Merck group that was also, somebody solicited them to get these nuns out, called me not knowing we had already done the evacuation, furious, saying that they heard we got the contract. I'm like, what contract? I have to raise the money myself. Is there someone paying for this? I'd like that. I'd like some help. They said we could never do it. We don't have the capability, that you're going to need helicopters. You're going to need to put fire on the target and this and that. And I just let them go and go and go and go. And I'm like, well, we got the sisters out. They're now safely in South Sudan. And we also got 800 other Christians into the Nuba Mountains. And we did it for $60,000. Thank you very much. So not that there's not a need for these people in different places and different times, but that's not what we do, and we would hate to ever be mistaken for that. And people always ask me when I go to these countries or these places, and actually on the way here, one of my friends was just like in hysterics for my security on something I'm up to. And I said, no, I just go like with my Chicago White Sox hat on, with my Bose headphones playing Bob Marley and smiling at people and waving. When I was leaving the West Bank in January, I had to get home because my son had a scouting camping trip. I had like 36 hours to get from the West Bank to the hill country of Texas to a scouting event, or my wife would kill me. Then I need help. Then I need a protection. I need mercs. But, I was leaving right when the IDF decided to do some sort of military incursion. So I had to walk several clicks just to get past them. And I just literally was playing Ambushed in the Night over and over on repeat by Bob Marley, which to me is all you need to know about foreign policy can be learned by listening to Bob Marley's Ambush in the Night. Listen to it 7 times, give yourself a master's degree in
You know, the Whalers rode in my cab one night, and they were total dicks, but he was long dead by then. Go ahead.
I know the family well. That breaks my heart. Well, anyway, I would just say I just literally I got a picture of it. I took a picture as I was at the sign, and I was by a sign in the West Bank with my headphones on and my rucksack and my backpack. But no, we just go there. We want to stand in solidarity with the most vulnerable people in the world. We want to stand between the vulnerable and the violent. It was also great when I was in the West Bank too. I was on Steve Bannon's The War Room, and advocating for Palestinian Christians at a time where it was pretty brave to be able to be on Steve Bannon's show and say, because I do his show often, hey, Steve, you do know that the Palestinian Christians are the most vulnerable ethnic and religious community on earth, right? And that's a real privilege to be able to advocate for them in the heart of my tribe.
Yeah. All right. So that's my next question after this one, which is I want you to address, though, the thing about removing Palestinians. Obviously, you're saving people who are in desperate need of medical care, taking them from a place where there is none to where they can get some. At the same time, though, the Israelis are wounding these people by the tens of thousands just so that they can convince you to give them a ride out of there and hopefully never come back. And so there is a little bit, at least, of a double-edged sword there, right? That you have to be cognizant of, right? Or do any of them come back? Or once they're in Qatar, they stay there, right?
Yeah, well, we've never taken anyone to Qatar. Our organization has not. But once they're in Egypt or once they're in Jordan, the deal is they're there.
Yeah.
So we don't take anyone out that doesn't beg to be removed.
Yeah.
And we do our best to support the community in there, in Gaza, and we do our best to advocate for them everywhere and always.
Right.
And we want people to know who they are. We want people. I was just in D.C. and I was at a dinner party, and a friend of mine that works at the White House said he was talking to his Israeli counterpart who was yelling about me, saying that I'm humanizing, quote, he laughed. He goes, he put it in quotes, my friend. He said, VPP is, quote, humanizing Palestinians with their propaganda. And that's how clever I am.
Yeah.
That I use the art of propaganda to humanize humans.
Yeah.
And next thing I'll be selling water as water and follow me for more tricks.
Yeah. Incredible. Okay. And look, I don't mean to be too accusatory in bringing that up, but it is.
No, I want you to bring up all the hard questions.
It's something that comes up when, humanitarian work is part of this. I have a friend, old friend, Bill Kelsey, who, spent, I guess, his entire retirement, maybe even before that, flying relief missions into places like Sudan and Afghanistan and other places. And I think he must have told me back in 2003, right, that this has been an issue with him and in the international humanitarian type community all along, is that they know that they are part of the war effort, that America can't wage the war in Afghanistan that it wages if they don't have people like him to come and fly in and deliver the aid. So if you zoom all the way in, he's giving food to people who need it. You zoom all the way out, Donald Rumsfeld couldn't do the war at all if it wasn't for
I would say it's different
Bill.
what we're doing in Afghanistan.
I'm only bringing that up as one example where these people are not part of any grift or any regime. They clearly, I know this guy's a decent guy and he's simply trying to get food to hungry people, but he knows that in a way he's part of this larger system. So I just that's why I brought that up to you about you're helping give these people health care, but then your critics may have a point at least.
We have not been able to, this evacuation we just did was rare. Like right now, most of our efforts is just getting aid in, and not just aid. I showed you a video. Yeah. I don't know if you want to share the video we just showed you, but
yeah, I'll post it. I'll send it to my guy. We'll post it in the show notes.
So this video that we can show is we're not just trying to keep them alive, but to let them know they're loved and give them hope. So we deliver shave ice. This week we're a Catholic organization. To all the Catholics and Orthodox, we brought in birthday cakes. In fact, the first day that we were the organization, folks. If you heard about it was covered in the international media. A Catholic aid organization's warehouse in Gaza was destroyed. Along with it, 2 of our employees were killed, and 5,000 containers of baby formula were eviscerated. That was our employees.
And when was that?
A month ago. And we were working for a very long time. I had to go to Jordan twice. Getting baby formula into me was very important. And to be completely transparent, even the aid that we deliver is meant to exemplify a truth. We're primarily an education organization. We want to defend the vulnerable from violence by promoting human dignity and inspiring solidarity. That's her simple mission. And so even our aid is meant to be an exemplification, an educational opportunity. And so our aid is not just aid. I mean, we bring in shave ice, we bring in water, we bring in inflatable pools for the kids, and we bring in clowns, and we sing songs, and we do games with the orphans. And then we videotape it, and we put it out there, and we're just aggressive, trying to show people that these are children, that these are human beings. And that's our constant effort. I know that the biggest effect that I can do for the people of Gaza is get a ceasefire today. I would rather get a ceasefire today than the war go on another month and I deliver 2 million meals, of course. Right. So the most important thing I can do is advocate for a ceasefire. And I think the best thing I can do to get us towards a ceasefire is humanize Palestinians. I get trolled a lot because I always talk about what I love most about like the West Bank is the French fries. Because if people say, why does this guy always talk about it? But I do it intentionally. It's because you go to the West Bank, or if you went to Gaza before this, Hiroshima-like event or multiple Hiroshima-like event, you would feel completely at home. When you hear folks say that you're not safe in the West Bank, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. You trust me, you'd feel much safer on the West Bank than, 5th Street over here in Austin? I walk all over the West Bank, and you don't look more out of place. I only look in place in Scandinavia, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Everywhere else in Iowa. Everywhere else in the world, I don't fit. I walk around the West Bank, nothing. Everyone's nice, nothing strange, no threats, no violence. I don't feel safe in Israel. People are not always nice to you in Israel. You ask them, there are people who won't talk to you.
There are a couple of blocks on East 5th Street in Austin that are...
That's what I'm saying.
Might actually go around, yeah.
Yeah.
Even now. All right, so, and I appreciate that. I always try to recommend to people watch the documentary Killing Gaza, made by Max Blumenthal and Dan Cohen, where a couple of nice Jewish boys go to the Gaza Strip right at the end of the 2014 war, right during that. So they're witness to all of this horror around them. And they're like, hi, we're American Jews. And everybody's like, hi, come on in. And just treats them perfectly well. And then they interview they do 20 interviews or 50 interviews or something. And, this is not selective editing or whatever. You can just tell from the way it's presented that all of these people make their case. And none of them say anything about Jews other than possibly if they say the Jews, they just mean the Israelis on the other side of the line there. That's what they call themselves.
Yeah.
But they don't mean it like, oh, the Jews or whatever. But even then, all they're saying is, this is my land. You see this dirt? This dirt belongs to me, dude, which you could translate into any language in the world, right?
Yeah.
And anyone would understand. Nobody's saying anything about, oh, yeah, Mohammed said I'm supposed to hate Jews for not believing in Mohammed or whatever. Nuh-uh, dude. There's none of that.
No, and people think we're crazy. I will tell people this. They go, well, you don't know, you haven't been there. I'm like, what do you mean I haven't been there? I've been there a lot. And they're like, oh, well, you must have been propagandized while you were there. You can't win. Like, you can't win.
Dude, the fact that Dan Cohen and Max Blumenthal went around, not the West Bank, but the Gaza Strip, and were perfectly fine. And it's not like, oh, Hamas was so crafty that they let these two guys.
Dude, it's Hollywood, bro.
They're just
it's
walking
Hollywood.
around talking to regular Joes, dude. What are you going to do? It's called Killing Gaza, and it's free. They made a little bit of money off it at first, and then I think they got enough demand for it that they decided they wanted to make sure that it was available. So anyone can watch it online. And this is from 2014. Well, it's the same difference.
It's the same difference. I'd love for you to have a friend of mine, Alice Casilla, on. If you know Alice, she's the fitness model champion, Palestinian Christian from right outside of Bethlehem, who her home got stolen by the settlers and destroyed, and they beat her up, and she fights them, and she's kind of become an international hero. She's a good friend of mine, and so when I'm in the West Bank, we always hang out. Last time I was there, she actually is an Israeli citizen, Palestinian, but her father's not. It's this weird, strange thing that I can't even wrap my mind around how she is and her dad isn't, but she is. So she can travel freely. And so one night I asked her, what do you support, a 1-state solution or 2-state solution? She goes, I support a 3-state solution. I said, what's a 3-state solution? She said, one for Zionist assholes, one for Islamist assholes, and one for the rest of us. And I thought that is beautiful, 3-state solution. And then I kind of got to see the third state because she goes, Jason, you have to come meet my friends. and Haifa. So it's a long drive from the West Bank to Haifa, and we drove there. And I'm old. I mean, I'm old enough. I'm 53. She's young, in her 20s. She's like, let's go meet my friends. So we were driving she takes me to a nightclub. She takes me to like a rave where I meet Israeli soldiers who are Jewish and Druze. I meet Palestinians, Israelis who are Muslim. I'm hanging out with this Palestinian hero who stands up to the settlers. They're all friends. And I'm in this like rave. I'm in this weird bar. Like, I can't even explain it. It's like the size of your studio, but there's a beanbag in the corner, and there's just all these stoned kids dancing. And I'm in the beanbag, and I FaceTime my wife. I go, what is my life? I was meeting with Christian leaders in the West Bank 9 hours ago, and now I'm here, and I go, look, and there's these kids, you know, and there's the DJ. You think you're in like Berlin or something. I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm like looking at, I'm like, tears are pouring down my face. I'm looking at Jews, Druze, Muslims, Christians, just friends. And some of these are reservist soldiers that have to go fight in Gaza and kill my friend's family. And yet they're just beautiful people. And you begin to understand that everyone who lives there is a victim of this. You know, the poor soldiers. I'm an infantryman. My oldest son fought in Iraq and Syria, a war that I opposed. And I remember at the time saying, not thinking it was going to be real, that, you know, my son will end up fighting in this stupid war that you guys are advocating, and your boys will never serve. And sure enough, my son did serve, fighting in Iraq and Syria. Happened to be when the U.S. and the Peshmergas were having tensions, and my son's unit was near the Pashtun. I was with the Pashtun. I was like texting my son, hey, don't fire on us.
Oh, right. I remember that. You told me about that.
What a strange world. But
yeah, God.
But, you know, these IDF soldiers, I want people to understand this. Any Christian Zionist that is watching this show for notes so you can go debate your anti-war friends, I want you to know that it is you that pushed that young man to the brink of despair, maybe total despair. The young Jewish man who was a reservist, home from deployment, in his apartment, months later, and the pain will not go away. The smell of burning flesh will not go away. What he saw will not go away. And he is there alone. He is there alone, and he hates himself. And he's confused. This is war. This is war.
They've had hundreds of suicides of Israeli
and horrible,
soldiers
and they're killing themselves in unimaginable ways. The young man who set himself on fire. You know, and so who are the victims of this war? The victim ideology kills. And it's killing Palestinians, and it's killing Israelis. It's killing their heart. It's killing, even if they're not going to die. There's this young man that's going viral, is a former infantryman and from a family of soldiers and a community of soldiers. My friends are all soldiers. You know, I have these conversations every day with my friend. I just had a friend who just came back from trying to do some experimental treatment with psychedelics, and he came back. He goes, "That wasn't for me. It was," and he explained what he saw. Clearly, his war trauma coming forward. And you know, I'm a Christian, and I think PTSD and war trauma is the greatest proof of God's existence, because it proves that we were created to love each other, not hurt each other. Because I have friends who are bad dudes, special forces guys, trained killers. They come back from war. They were propagandized. They were trained. And they come back from war. And these big, strong men, they're puppies with broken hearts. And I tell them, you feel that? That's because you were created to love. You were not created to hurt. And so this pain should be your greatest solace, because it's the greatest proof to me of God's existence. But yeah, this is war. And I think even around the death of Charlie Kirk, you hear people calling for civil war. I'm like, who are these fools? Who are these fools? Do you guys know what war is? And I invite these people, like I invite people all of the time. You want to come with me? I go to Ukraine. I've been to the front lines in the war in Ukraine. I was in Sudan during the genocide. I was in Iraq during the war and the genocide. I invite people to come with me. Only one person ever came with me. No, two. The movie star Eduardo Verástegui, the Mexican heartthrob from Sound of Freedom, and I produced the movie Bella with him. I'm also a film producer. And then Joshua Charles, who is Mike Pence's speechwriter, and he's become quite a famous Catholic apologist online. But those were he came with me to Ukraine, and he had to rush to the bomb shelters when the missiles were coming in and the drones were coming in. I'm lazy, so I found that there's something you can do that's even better than going to the bomb shelter. It's just grabbing 2 pillows and putting them over your head so you don't hear the sirens. And I just figure if it's my time, it's my time. But he always would go down. He's like, why weren't you in the shelter? I'm like, I have to sleep, bro. I need my sleep.
Man, yeah, I don't think I'll come with you, man. I'll stay here and commentate.
We need you. I don't want you coming out. We need Scott Horton. And Scott, I just want to say this, like in the middle of your show, from the very beginning, like you don't know, maybe you do know, like we're in awe of you, your fortitude. You're a prophet. You're kind. You're full of empathy. And you're really a national treasure.
Yeah, come on.
And no, you are. I'm just telling you that. And I'm grateful for you. So you're not allowed to come.
All right, yeah, I'm going to stay here and stay in one piece if I can. Hang on just 1 second for me. Hey, you guys. This October, Mikkel Thorup is once again hosting the free Expat Money Online Summit this October 10th through 12th. Thorup is a great dude. How do I know? Well, I toured ancient Mayan ruins with him in Mexico one time. It was rad. He's a serious expert in residency and citizenship laws and customs around the world. He knows it all, chapter and verse, where you can put your money and put yourself anywhere in the world you might want to go. He can show you how to acquire second residencies and other real estate, get foreign citizenship, legally mitigate taxes, set up offshore banking, and more. This year's summit is focused on Latin America. Mikkel and other top-tier experts will help you build your offshore Plan B and understand the geopolitical forces reshaping the region. Head over to expatmoneysummit.com to reserve your free ticket today. That's expatmoneysummit.com. Well, those of you who listen to me tell you to listen to Mike Swanson at Wall Street Window and Tim Fry at Roberts & Roberts Brokerage, Inc. Have bought a bunch of gold, must be doing great right now, and should probably donate to the Libertarian Institute. Roberts & Roberts is the best. It's a matter of trust. There's no flashy gimmicks, risky schemes, or bait-and-switch scams here. Roberts & Roberts is here to help you protect your wealth. Any portfolio ought to have a solid percentage in metals. For us Austrian school types, even more. Go to Roberts & Roberts Brokerage, Inc. at rrbi.co to protect yourself from monetary inflation. That's rrbi.co. Hey, y'all, LibertasBella.com is where you get Scott Horton Show and Libertarian Institute shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, and stickers and things, including the great Top Lobsters designs as well. See, that way it says on your shirt why you're so smart. Libertas Bella, from the same great folks who bring you ammo.com for all your ammunition needs, too. That's LibertasBella.com. Hey, y'all, I've been working on the audiobook of my new book, Provoked, How Washington Started the New Cold War with Russia and the Catastrophe in Ukraine. I've now finished and posted part 3 of the audiobook to my Substack and Patreon at scotthortonshow.com and patreon.com/scotthortonshow. So that finishes all of George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. I know there's still a long way to go, but just these first 2 chapters are almost 10 hours of audio to get you started. I promise I'm doing the rest as fast as I can. Get the audiobook of Provoked first. Subscribe at scotthortonshow.com or patreon.com/scotthortonshow. All right, so tell us about, like, specifically about the meals. Like, what all are you able to raise? How much are you able to raise? How much food are you able to turn that into? And how many kids and others are being fed?
These are really complex questions, and it's different. Like, the price of, my assistant's here, she can tell you, we're like always wrestling with the price of things are always in flux. There was a time where like onions were going more per ounce than gold in Gaza. So I told my wife I was going to get her an onion necklace for our 20th anniversary. And but now we've seen a slight dip in prices. So this week we were able to bring vegetables into different communities that were very important for us to bring those vegetables to. We brought hot meals into the churches. We do hot meals every week for the Christian communities there. It's about 1,000 Christians between all of the Christian communities there. There are 2 Christian communities there. But we also have focused on different areas where we've identified famine and also where there's not access to water. We sort of, it's not very sophisticated. We're on these signal groups with aid organizations. They'll identify a community where there's no water. And our logistics partner, and for reasons that are obvious, I can't wait to tell the story of how we're doing what we're doing, and it's completely. And that'll be a story for after the war.
Yeah.
But, a lot of people don't know how we're doing it. Dave Smith, when he saw our banner, we had Happy Birthday Ron Paul meals delivered to the orphans that week. Thousands of meals. I think it was 10,000 meals wrapped with Happy Birthday Ron Paul on it. And Dave Smith's like, this is AI. I'm like, this is not AI. I promise you. And people online used to accuse us of AI. Now we don't get that anymore. But then they accuse us of nefarious. Oh, you must be working with, we know who you're working with to get food in. Yeah, okay, yeah. I have them on, we met on LinkedIn, and that's how we communicate. Like, what do you think? No, we go meet very respected logistics partners of powerful country. You can figure it out. And then we built relationships with them, so they prioritize our work. But we really do focus on water now. So we're bringing in a lot of water and as much food as we can. This week we were able to get vegetables, and we were able to hit several camps in several neighborhoods. We have what are called children's events. And that's the video I sent you. Those are of our Children's Day events where we go into the different camps with clowns and teachers, and we're singing in games. And this week, we're actually having them. These guys are really unbelievable, our partners on the ground. This week, to get food into the churches, Scott, it was so dangerous that they decided only 2 would go and 2 would stay back because they knew they were going to die. They didn't die, but they just knew they were going to die. And they said, but we really wanted to get this food. And it wasn't just food. We had food, ices, and cake for Mary's birthday. Yeah. And these Muslim men risked their life, assumed they were going to die, to deliver Christians food to celebrate Mary's birthday. To me, this is the beautiful story. These unfortunately, the most beautiful stories come out of these great tragedies. I can't wait to tell who our partners are, who these heroes are, and share them with the world and address the calumny and detraction that lurks. And they'll just feel ridiculous. Because it's not us, it's our partners that are the heroes. Oh, but with our partners on the ground, I told them I want to bring in ice cream trucks. With my team, I always say, when we go into a war zone, we don't, a lot of these aid organizations, these aid workers will come in looking like soldiers. They dress like soldiers. They wear their tactical watches and their Ray-Bans. I'm like, nah, we want to go in like the ice cream man. That's what I've always said for years. When we go into a war-torn area, we want to go in there like the ice cream man. We want to bring joy.
And now you're saying you want to do that literally.
We're literally going to do it. We're actually sourcing ice cream trucks right now for when there's a ceasefire. But then my partners were like, look, let's not wait till a ceasefire. We can put together with the bicycles and all like it's like a big junkyard. It's just the whole Gaza Strip has just been reduced to rubble. They've been scavenging to make like tricycles with like ice boxes on the front. Yeah. And they're just going to drive around Gaza giving out ice pops. It's something very cheap to do. You just need food and sugar, water, and flavoring and color. And it's very cheap for us to do. But as you can see in the video I showed you, these kids go nuts. It goes nuts. Yeah. And so what we're going to do is Andrew Breitbart was one of my best friends, and we always used to talk about New Wave, our shared love of New Wave and punk and the Specials, who you were playing when I walked in your office today. I said, we're just going to play 80s New Wave, blasting from our ice cream trucks. 100% of these kids have PTSD. Duh. They don't.
That was social distortion, by the way.
Oh, sorry, social distortion. You're right. Sorry. 80% of the kids under 18, they're bedwetters. It's a war zone. Kids are losing their hair from stress because of the constant presence of drones and the buzzing above. We've seen this in Pakistan in our drone war.
Yeah.
So we just really, I'm a father. I became a dad at 18. I have 6 brothers and sisters. I was a teen parent myself. My mother was a teen parent. I was the youngest. And no, we're not Mormons. We were just, poor people from the south side of Chicago. That's how we do it. And that's why I dropped out of high school and joined the Army the day I turned 17. Then I ended up having my son at 18. So, and my youngest son is 2 years apart from my youngest brother. And my oldest grandchild is 2 years apart from my youngest son. So I have been changing diapers since I was 2. And I will be changing diapers till the day I die. and I see the world through the eyes of a father. And I run VPP that way. So when we're operating in an area, like we're serving children the way a father would serve, even with the Yazidis who have a very good relationship with the horrible victims of our war in Iraq and the consequences of that war. I have a sister that my assistant Ritha here just got to go to. Her whole family died in the war. And I found out she's, plucking chickens now and living in Nebraska. And she bought herself a little house. Can you believe this? I found out because she has so little money, she had a house with, what did she have? Rather than nothing, not a shower curtain, like one fork, one plate, one spoon. I told her when I met her in Iraq after she was rescued, and I heard what happened to her and her family. I said, I'm your brother and I'm your father. Whatever you would ask your brother or father for, you're going to ask me for. Well, she didn't ask me. When I found out, my assistant and my daughter flew to Nebraska and they fully furnished her house. And now she has a beautiful home. Did we get her vinyl record player yet? We're big into vinyl and VPP. It's how we treat our PTSD.
Fair enough, yeah. I wanted to ask you about the water. When I interviewed Anthony Aguilar, I'm sorry, I think I said Aguilera earlier. I think it's Aguilar.
What a brave man, too.
Yeah, when he said that the group that he worked for, they said, bringing the water in costs too much.
It's cheap.
And so it was like the weight in the trucks compared to the food. So added to their fuel costs or whatever. So he said they weren't getting water in, and he wondered how anyone was getting any drinking water. You got 2 million people there. They got to drink somehow. What in the hell? And then and I don't know how much you can pump in, but without an actual pipe full of water coming in.
No, we bring in water trucks. And you're right. It's diesel. This is all logistics. Like, I wish I was an infantryman. I wish I'd have been a logistics officer. Everything we do is logistics and fundraising.
Like, is there a way that you can calculate, like, how many people per day can drink from the water that you're able to provide?
Can you text
Do you know that?
Naji? Are you on with, Nasser? Here. Yeah, we can give that to you by the end of the show. Like, we can give you all the numbers. I have them. Actually, I should have them off the top of my head, but I don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, water's, for example, I buy trucks. I think it's $4,000 a truck. I don't know off the top of my head how much it is to deliver a truck of water, but I'll tell you, she witnesses it. I emptied our bank account completely 2 weeks ago, was it? I just said, because our logistics guy was like, we can get vegetables, we can get rice, we can get this, we can get that, we can get all this water. What do you want to do? What can you afford? I said, let's do it all. I said, full disclosure, I don't have any of that money yet because I just wired all the money for what we did last month. I said, but I'll do my best. He goes, I trust you, brother. I'll give you till the end of time to pay. And I said, okay, on that note, let's do it. And so just today, I can show you, I get my daily updates of water trucks going in. Every day we got water trucks going in, 2, 3, 4, 5 water trucks. And, people will say, someone posted on Facebook, Jason Jones said, I never said, I quoted the people who know, 5,000 people in Gaza meet the definition of starvation. How are they? Why aren't they all dead? Well, that's not how starvation works. Like, you can, the young, the old, and the sick will die, and other people will just remain in a state of starvation for a very long time. But if they're not getting water, they're dead. And because we are a small NGO, we don't have all the money in the world. It's yeah, I'm sorry. You could look in there. My phone's somewhere in there. Oh, it's dead. I'll get you all those numbers.
It's fine, man.
I'll get you all those numbers, but I wish I had them off the top of my head.
I just meant like ballpark. You know what I mean? Like, there's 2 million people there. Obviously, you're doing your very best, but that can
I think
not
it's
be enough, right?
Yeah, no. And here's the point. And I'd say we're primarily an educational organization. Nothing is enough. I got to tell you, like, nothing is enough. Like, I couldn't. What can you do for 2 million people? What can UNRWA do? What can anyone do? I mean, it's 2 million people. Can I address the stolen trucks thing? Because maybe people are thinking like about 8. We just, for the first time ever in 2 years, had trucks stolen. And they stole all our food. They beat up our guys. Not Israel, but Palestinians in Gaza did this to our guys. First time yet. But it happened.
The narrative is that Hamas steals all the aid, and that's why any Palestinian is going without.
And so I want to address that. So if I know the numbers on this because I broke it down, me and my researcher, it would be if they were only receiving it. So Israel says Hamas is stealing 75% of the casualties and 75% of the calories, and they're receiving 2,200 calories a day on average. That's insane. They're not stealing 75% of the calories, and they're not eating 2,000 calories a day. But let's just say they're eating 1,000 calories a day, and that's hunger. Okay, so they're in a state of hunger. Okay, they're in state of hunger. And then Hamas is stealing 25% of the calories. And I wrote a Substack on this at my Jason Jones Show Substack, and I document it all. That would be 150 container trucks a day. I'm sorry, a month. 150 container trucks a month. That would be the equivalent of the entire black market per month of Somalia, Sudan, and Syria combined that Hamas would be running. They would need men, commandeer the trucks, move the trucks, hide the trucks, and guard the loot, distribute the loot, while fighting one of the most sophisticated militaries in the world with the most sophisticated, they have drones and satellite imagery. Where are these 150 trucks a month? Where are they?
Yeah.
Where's this food going? What are they doing with this food? Selling it to the people in Gaza? How much money do these people have? That means a lot of food is going to waste. Whatever you want to say about Hamas, they are purportedly a popular political movement. Of course, all of my partners and friends in Gaza have been in Hamas prisons, but
look,
it's
make
impossible.
Sense, so
They're stealing food. Is Hamas stealing food? Yes. Are gangs stealing food? Yes. Is it impacting the caloric intake and hunger in Gaza? Not at all.
Right.
No, it's the blockade.
It makes sense that they eat first, right? The armed fighters, they eat.
They're going to eat.
Right. But that doesn't mean that they are making sure nobody else does. Right. Like that's what the Israelis are trying to say, right?
Are there grifters
Hamas
and thieves
is taking
and gangs?
all the food and just hiding it somewhere or something.
Is Hamas taking food? Yes. Are there grifters in Gaza? Yes. Are there thieves? Yes. Are there gangs? Yes. And
when your guys got jacked, was there any indication that was
they
Hamas
were just
that
brutal
did that?
gangs. It's just brutal thugs.
Yeah.
And there could be speculation on where those thugs came from, who armed them, and all of that. I'm not going to speculate.
Obviously, criminals are going to thrive in a state of total chaos.
Exactly,
like this.
And that's why that's why when you're invading a country, you do have a responsibility for establishing order as soon as possible because this chaos is going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I don't know. It seems apparent to me, but what do I know? You've been around. Is this the worst thing going on in the world right now?
It's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, in all of my work. I've had heartbreaking work. I mean, we're still evacuating Afghans, our Afghan allies and religious minorities from Afghanistan. We have a network of safe houses. That was crushing to me, those weeks and months, maybe the first year and a half. But that prepared me for this. But to see a live stream genocide, to see American politicians saying things like, nuke Gaza, starve Gaza, flatten Gaza. Congressman Fines that drop atomic bombs in Gaza. A prominent conservative leader who I looked up to was someone I greatly admired, went on one of these fam trips with the State of Israel sponsors with conservative leaders. And he just came back a couple weeks ago and he called me. He says, I have some questions for you. I said, sure. Any questions, brother? And he started like spouting. I said, is this questions or a lecture? I said, ask me a question. He goes, well, but you need to know this first. I said, brother, you just took a 2-week or 1-week propaganda tour. I don't need you for that. I know that. I used to believe that, okay? Ask me a question. And it ended with him saying to me, actually texting me, turn all of Gaza into pink mist. That's the hard part for me. The hard part for me is to see people in my community, my tribe, my friends, pro-life activists, pro-life leaders, religious leaders, that advocate ethnic cleansing and genocide.
Aren't they afraid of Jesus?
I think they don't believe in Jesus. I don't. I don't think, when I was an atheist,
you're talking about leaders in the Christian community.
Yeah, I would. I think in any community, if you want power, it's easy to figure out how to get power. In fact, as a young atheist, I wanted influence, and I had mapped into my plan a fake conversion to Episcopalian after graduate school. That was a weird plan. But I thought if I became an Episcopalian, I wouldn't have to be overtly religious, but I could belong to a community, and they seemed like good-looking, proper people to hang out with on Sundays.
Yeah.
And so but as an atheist, when I finally began to study revealed religions, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, what really attracted me to Christianity was the idea of a God that stood with the outcast, a God that kissed lepers, a God that knelt down next to a woman caught in the act of adultery. Imagine in the Middle East 2,000 years ago, kneeling down next to a woman about to be stoned, caught in the act of adultery. I mean, that was startling to me. And I was an Ayn Rand objectivist. I was a militant Randian. And I was raised in a really anti-Christian home. My high school girlfriend's father, who forced her to have the abortion when I was in basic training, which was sort of my inciting incident, was a prominent Christian leader, Catholic leader in Chicago. So I just thought Christians, my grandfather was a Scientologist, so all that comes with that, I would kind of get his perspective on Christianity and Catholicism. And, but I became a Randian. But what really startled me when I read the Gospels with a really open mind was this idea of a God that stood with the outcast. And I remember at the time thinking, I don't know if this is true, but wouldn't it be wonderful if it was true? And then I started reading more, and I read the church fathers and praying, and then I assented to belief. But my assistant, who's sitting next to you, is Muslim, and we often talk about religion and what if aliens are real, or what if this Hinduism is real, or what if this is real, and what if that's real? I said, well, whatever the case may be, I want to stand with the outcast because I'm a loser. Obviously, I'm a loser with high self-esteem. No failure will make me stop feeling like a loser. No failure will undermine my self-confidence. No success will make me stop feeling like a loser. And I think that's where God wants us. That's where I am. That's the one place where God wants me, I am. I mean, I'm a wreck. But if you're a Christian and you say turn any community into pink mist, you need to check yourself, brother. Because our religion has no other. We're called to love our enemy. And turning women and children into pink mist is not loving your enemy. Now, you may have to defend your family from an enemy. That's a tragedy. Can I share with you what my grandpa told me on his deathbed? My grandfather, who I didn't even know, my dad's father, my mom's father was Scientologist. My dad's father never knew he was Catholic till on his deathbed. We all find Jesus on our deathbed. He had his rosary, and I was crying. We had to rush from Chicago to Mountain Home, Arkansas. We're racing to Arkansas, where working class people from Chicago go to die. It's Arkansas, and I go in there with my grandfather, and I'm crying, and my grandfather said, "Don't cry for me. Cry for those. If you need to cry, cry for those. I had a beautiful life. Cry for all the young boys that I saw who died." And I said, I was trained never to talk to my grandfather about the Korean War. The one time my dad hit me was when I accidentally, MASH came on. I go, "Grandpa, do you know this is about the Korean War, not Vietnam?" Because I always thought it was about Vietnam. When I figured out it was about Korea, I just blurted it. My dad's hand just reflexively, pow. He never brought up the Korean War. He was in both. So I said, "Oh, all those boys," like I was trained, "all those boys that died in World War II, Grandpa, all those American boys you saw die in World War II, Grandpa." Like tears were coming down his eyes. And he said, "No." He said, "All those Chinese boys that I saw die, so many, we had to push them over." My grandpa was just like looking. We would have to push them over so that we could shoot the ones coming at us. And if we didn't kill them, they would kill us. But they were just boys. They didn't even have weapons. He said, "If you're going to cry, cry for them." Now, my grandfather was 6'5", product of the Depression. This guy was a man. He hard drinking, 6'5". He got in a fight with the Hells Angels in his 60s, got like his back broke. He lost that fight and walked with a king ever since. He lived in bars. He drank. Big and strong, never mean to me, but quiet. I didn't have a lot of conversations with my grandpa. He'd go in the garage, play his transistor radio, listen to Lawrence Welk, and fiddle with his tool set, his tools, and tinker around the house or the garden. I would just trail around behind him. We didn't have a lot of in-depth conversations, just be by him. tool and die maker at Ford. But on his deathbed, he was thinking about Chinese boys. And you know what? That means a lot to me is my wife's family fled Mao. And her dad came to New York. Her mom's family fled to Hong Kong. Her mom became Miss Hong Kong and a model. Her father was a big movie producer, and they met at a party. Where Bruce Lee was actually at the party. What a crazy story is that? But my grandpa never knew. He could have never imagined in 1987, 16-year-old blonde-haired, blue-eyed grandson from Chicago, that all of his descendants from now until the end of time will be Chinese. He never knew that. But here's a man that was born in the early 20th century who killed Chinese boys, who cried for Chinese boys. That's war. And that's why I'm grateful for your audience and for you, because you guys, I know there's a lot of veterans in your community. There's a lot of you that didn't need to experience war to know that war sucks. Imagine that. You just knew it. You just figured it out without having to do it.
Yeah.
And so we're just grateful for you. And that's what we do at VPP. I say that what is my job now? I kind of feel like I'm a trust fund baby. My dad, here, I'll give you this analogy. My job is like my brother is a paint salesman. He travels around the country, makes good living, 6 figures, high 6 figures, selling paint all over the country. And he goes to Applebee's and he knocks up girls, paying for abortions and abandoning women and children all over the country. And my job is to sort of kind of go around and clean up the mess. Now, a lot of what VPP does is in the wake of our catastrophes, wars that you opposed, work that we shouldn't have to be doing. And that's sad. It's sad that at the end of the day, and we're not doing much. At the end of the day, we're doing nothing. It means a lot to the few hundreds or thousands of people we touch, but these are seas of tens and hundreds of millions of people. And so I'm not naive to think that we're doing any great work.
Well, these things are relative. You know what I mean? You've certainly done your share of turning history in your own way. And as you say, certainly for a lot of individual people, and especially in the most desperate circumstances. So thank you for coming by.
Oh, brother. Anytime you want me to come hang out with you, I'm coming to hang out with you.
Yeah. Good. The Vulnerable People Project, is that the website?
Oh, yeah, vulnerablepeopleproject.com. And if you want to go and look at what we do, I'm really proud of what our team accomplishes. And you can see our work in Afghanistan. We have a coal for Christmas. Every winter, we distribute thousands of tons of coal and food to the widows and orphans of our Afghan allies who were killed in action, and also to religious minorities. In Nigeria, we provide security for Christian and other communities facing Islamist attacks. In Afghanistan, not only do we have our safe houses in neighboring countries, but we actually do provide security and have a partnership with the only girls' school, high school left in Kabul. And we have a program called Flight to Freedom where when Afghan girls get accepted to college and they get their visas, that we pay for their flights. Because sometimes they're given these golden opportunities for education, and they live in very remote villages where a plane ticket would be several years' income for their family. So for us, it's a great privilege for us to. Mm-hmm. We also fly in wounded women. There were these, whenever recently last December, Ritha was kind of thrown into the fire. She just came on board, and there was a girls' school bombed by ISIS, and
oh yeah, I remember.
We flew the girls to hospitals, and we flew them to Canada, and we sent them to go see at the Royal Theatre the Nutcracker, and just little beautiful things like this. We just try to bring beauty and joy into a dark world, to communities outside of social concern, to teach, just simply to show, like just through actions, this is how you should treat the outcast. This is how you should treat the vulnerable. You should serve them. We say basically, we're the Trump Hotel. We're the concierge desk at the Trump Hotel. And the people we serve are the guests, and that's how we try to treat them.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for listening to The Scott Horton Show, which can be heard on APS Radio News at scotthorton.org, scotthortonshow.com, and the Libertarian Institute at libertarianinstitute.org.